Let me just set up the wider context and then we'll get to the particular comments and respond to them. Mauler has released another very long diatribe, and in this case, he's looking at Black Widow, but really he's trying to assess just the MCU as a whole and their recent films and television shows. And in this section, he's going to make the basic main chart, namely that Black Widow as a character has been degraded. And I think he does have a small point, but as always, he engages in a lot of rhetorical exaggeration. So let's hear him speak and then respond to what he has said.
And that is the thorough assassination of both Natasha Romanoff and Yelena Romantomonomolov, or whatever the fuck they're going with. They just executed hundreds of people. They trapped guards in with their prisoners while destroying many sources of power and communication. They buried human beings under hundreds of feet of snow thanks to the use of an RPG in response to someone trying to prevent you chucklefucks from facilitating the highly illegal and immoral escape of a convict. They will eat each other in there. The likelihood that anyone can muster a significant enough force to dig them all out of this enormous disaster in time, before many have died for a multitude of reasons, is incredibly unlikely. And if you think they deserve it because they're prisoners, or because they are members of law enforcement, then you aren't mature enough to watch Postman fucking Pat. Thanks to these foul bints, everyone in that prison is about to have the worst few days of their lives. All because Yelena thinks Alexei might know where the Red Room is.
Well, there's an obvious fatal flaw here, and we're going to have to step outside of Black Widow, which is justified because he keeps, of course, referencing The Last Jedi, which is that it might seem really, really problematic to look at Black Widow as a hero after this film, except that we have a much worse situation with Anakin Skywalker. Remember the incredible amount of lives that he destroyed on Alderaan, and yet later he's redeemed. So presumably the millions, if not billions of people he killed, they don't really matter, right? Luke redeemed him, and it's over. So who cares about the atrocity? And again, Mauler's position on this, I think, is very positive and affirmative, that Return of the Jedi had a very good ending. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense for him to start complaining here. So it doesn't make any sense. There's really no consistency. Okay, so he's a hypocrite and liar as usual, or is imposing an insane double standard. But shouldn't we answer the question? Well, we'll put aside the obvious problem here that this is a work of fiction. That's it. Works of fiction don't communicate any normative standards per se. They don't. Ironically, if he agrees otherwise, he's a feminist, right? He's assuming that every piece of fiction must have some normative value inserted into it, which is, frankly, a totalitarian demand and highly fascistic, but there we are. But mature people just say, it's a piece of fiction, you don't take it too seriously. In fact, this whole point in this rant is that it's a really, really poorly made film. Well, then why do we take any of it seriously? Who cares? So it doesn't make any sense. So there's just a lot of incoherence with what he's saying. But let's answer the question onto its own terms, that if these people deserve to die, well, maybe they do. That's one problem. It's like, it could be a lot of these people in the prison and the prison guards, etc., don't deserve to live. So they didn't do anything wrong. We also have to consider the competing good, right? In other words, stopping the, quote, Black Widow program by Dreykov. It could be that these programs are endangering thousands, if not tens of thousands of lives. We know in the film itself that it led to Black Widow trying to kill off one man and his daughter, namely Dreykov and his daughter. So when we think about it, that stopping these thousands of assassins who may commit themselves dozens, if not hundreds of killings, you'd have to put that into consideration. And a utilitarian basis, what they're doing may be awful, but again, saving tens of thousands and sacrificing hundreds is awful, presumably, but it's actually done on a daily basis. We have to make risk assessments, and we do. Black Widow is just making a certain risk assessment, no different than most people, so they're still not making any real substantive point. But we'll still tackle this rather long moronic essay, because it does make a few solid points, but as always, mainly doesn't make any sense, and it's just a very tedious exercise. All right, This has been part 1 of a response to Mauler's Black Widow essay. Thank you for listening.